Yeah, two.
Come and grab a seat, ladies and gentlemen. Come and grab a seat. Be brave. Sit next to someone or at the same table as someone you don't know. Plenty of seats, plenty of tables over here on the right-hand side. There's two good-looking young blokes down here. Feel free to join them at the table at the front. Beautiful. Come and grab a seat, ladies and gentlemen. As people are coming in, for those of you that don't know, my name is Mike Simons. I'm the MC for the next few days. I'll give you more blurb in just a moment, and before we get started. But for an official welcome to country, I'd like to invite Uncle Richard to the stage to welcome us to his country. Cheers.
Hello everybody. Australia has 250 different nations, or countries as we call them, speaking some 500 dialects. The country we're in here is Gumbaynggirr. It's a nation of the Gumbaynggirr people. And in our language we say, Ginagay Gagu Jindanajawan. I am Richard, I am Bhagavajagan Gumbaynggirr Waja. I am Garlam Burlagu Giwa. So hello brothers and sisters. I'm Richard, I'm from the Bhagawa clan of the Gumbaynggirr Nation. And I'm here as a representative of the Coffs Harbour Aboriginal Elders Group to welcome you to the country of the Gumbaynggirr people. So I'm honoured to be here. And one of the things I'd like to start with is to thank today's organisers for asking for a welcome to country. It's one of the most respectful ways to honour Aboriginal people and traditional custodians. And the second thing is to explain what a welcome to country is, because quite often we hear it and we're not real sure what it's about. So the land of the Gumbaynggirr people goes from Mount Yarrahapinni in the south, across the mountain line and up to the Clarence River. On the other side of the Clarence River is the Bundjalung people. Traditionally, if one of them fellas wanted to come into our country, or any of our neighbours wanted to come into our country, what they do is they would go to the boundary and they would set up camp. And it'd be a little bit like sitting on the front door, doing that. Knock, knock, let me in. Now our old people, they'd see them fellas sitting up there and they'd be waiting. Eventually they'd get in a canoe and they'd go across the river to them fellas and they would say to them, "Who are you? Where you going? Who you know? What's your business in our country? How long are you going to be here?" Bit like going through customs. And people had to answer that. And if you gave an answer about why you wanted to come into our country, they would let you in, but they wouldn't just open the front door and say, "Here, you go for it, go and do whatever." They would take you to those significant places that we have. Now, one of those is up here behind us, called Sealy Lookout. Our people called it Negi Negi, place of plenty of coal. And it was named that because the old fellas would set fire to the trees and the grasses up there so that they could see better. See where all animals were, but see where people were in the country. So they would take you up there and they would show you the lands of the Gumbaynggirr Nation. They might show you Solitary Island out here, where that big light, the lighthouse is. In Gumbaynggirr we call that place Bunyanguda, the place of the red-brown finch. There was a time when my old people would walk out to that island to go fishing. when the sea levels were very low. They would walk out there, they would catch their fish, and they would chuck them all in a spot and created a midden. And that's why we know that they were out there, because they're big midden. But they would talk to you about that place, the significance of it, how important it is, how much love Gumbaynggirr people have for that space, with the hope and the belief that the respect and love we have for that place, you're going to have. It's the same as when you walk somebody through your house and say, yep, you can sit there, look after this, do that. It's the same sort of thing. So it was about respect. Now, if you come into our home, we don't expect you to say thank you. And in those 500 dialects, there was never a word for thank you. It was about respect. So people might say, while I'm in your country, I promise that I will speak wisely, tread softly, and I won't take anything that doesn't belong to me. That's respect. They have that same love in their heart. And that's what it's about. On that note, I would like to acknowledge my old people. I'd like to acknowledge they've looked after and cared for this country for over 60,000 years. I pay respects to my old people, past and present, and I extend that respect to everybody here today. And on behalf of the Coffs Harbour Aboriginal Elders Group, I'm honoured to say, Dariyaya Laming. Welcome. And thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Uncle Rich. So for the official opening of the Local Government IT Conference for 2025, I'd like to welcome the Director of Business Services for the City of Coffs Harbour, Stephen Southwell.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here again, and thank you for joining us on the lovely Coffs Coast. Firstly, thank you, Uncle Richard, for the welcome to country. Always great to hear your words about our traditional elders. So I also begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Gumbaynggirr people, who have cared for this land since time immemorial. I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and commit a future with reconciliation and renewal at its heart. The official opening was supposed to be by our Mayor, Nikki Williams. As hopefully you can tell, I'm not Nikki Williams, and I'm also not the Mayor. She has been unavoidably detained, so I'm here to fill in. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to the 26th Local Government Conference, hosted right here at Opal Cove on the beautiful Coffs Coast and powered by the City of Coffs Harbour. This annual gathering is the cornerstone of local government professionals across Australia, offering a space to connect, collaborate and shape the future of technology in the public sector against the stunning and inspiring backdrop of Australia's most tranquil beach locations. This year's program is rich with insight and innovation. We'll be exploring themes that are critical to the future of local government, including the all-important cybersecurity and cyber resilience, which we deal with every day. ICT innovation and how we can lead digital transformation in the workplace, setting up innovation frameworks, systems integrations and workflow automations to assist our team's operations. And an emerging theme, artificial intelligence. I know some of us are dealing with that as we progress through our daily lives, and a lot of the systems that we use are starting to integrate AI within their actual operations. We'll also dive into two showcase councils, presentations featuring some of the real-life examples and applications of innovation in IT, that we'll hear from Campbelltown City Council and Port Macquarie Hastings Council. So we thank those two councils for stepping up and giving us the presentation. To help unpack some of the key themes, we are privileged to be joined by some outstanding lineup of keynote speakers. These include Dr. Michelle Dickinson, a pioneer nanotechnologist and founder of NanoGirl Labs, whose work is making STEM accessible and inspirational for all. Simon Waller, a futurist and strategist who brings deep insight into scenario planning and leadership in uncertain times. Simon Chris, a globally recognised AI thought leader, known for guiding organisations through ethical and transformational AI adoption and governance from the boardroom to United Nations. And finally, Lane Beachley AO, a world champion surfer and advocate for mental wellness, and equally whose story of resilience and determination will inspire us all. We're also delighted to welcome a dynamic and diverse group of presenters representing some of Australia's most respected public and private sector IT organisations. But of course, none of this could be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, and it's great to see so many back again this year. I'd also like to extend heartfelt thanks to our, particularly our gold sponsors, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and Sophos. And finally, thank you for visiting our area. For those visiting from out of town, warmly welcome you to the Coffs Coast. If you're here for the first time or returning, I encourage you to take the time to explore the region, look at the stunning beaches, the hinterland trails, and the vibrant local food scene and cultural experiences. The wider Coffs Close is a place of community spirit, creativity and innovation, qualities that mirror the very essence of this conference. Thank you again for coming. Hope you enjoy the few days, make some great networks, and hopefully we'll see you around. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready to rock and roll? We're all pumped, primed. Oh, come on, people. Let's go. How are you feeling? You feeling good? Okay, beautiful. Can you do me a favour? Have a quick 30-second chat with the people on the table. Introduce yourself, because this, as Stephen said, this week or these next 3 days about networking. Break the ice. Be brave. Introduce yourself. Where are you from? What are you excited about over the next 3 days? And as you're doing that, team, what I'd love you to do
Is it on?
is just write down what is one key thing you want out of these next 3 days. What is one key thing you want out of these next 3 days, and share it with the person next to you.
There you go.
Okay, just share with the person at your table what's one key thing you want to get out of these next 3 days. We've got cyber security, AI, frameworks, workflows. There's a fancy dress theme party tomorrow night. Come dressed as your country of origin. Well, that's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be great. Okay, just wind up there, ladies and gentlemen. Just finish the conversation you're on. Okay, so just quickly, show of hands, who's here for the very first time? Oh, look at this. Wow. Good stuff. I can use all my same old jokes I've been using for the past 5 years and got a fresh audience. I like it. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'll have to go back through the old programs and, just pull out some old chestnuts. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome for those of you here for the first time. It is a wonderful 3 days. And look, the success of these next 3 days is resting in your hands. Make the most of it. Get out, network, share ideas, share your challenges, ask for advice, look for best practice, go and talk to the sponsors, the exhibitors centre, have conversations with them, and just make the most of these next 3 days. Whatever you put in is what you'll get out. So just a little bit of housekeeping. If you hear a whoop, whoop, whoop or a whop, 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 chances are something's burning and it's a light and we need to exit. just be calm and follow the exit instructions from the staff here at Opal Cove. Bathrooms are right through there. Just ask, we can just be on time when we come back from break so we keep the conference running smoothly. That would be great. So to get things rolling, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kick things off with Martin Buckland. So basically, Martin is the only Microsoft security specialist in Australia who is dedicated to the local government sector. He works across all states, territories, working with his local government customers to advise on security, governance, risk and compliance capabilities. Martin has spent the last 9 years focused on cyber security and has worked with the federal government agencies, state governments, and critical infrastructure providers. So to share with us cyber security in the age of AI, ladies and gentlemen, Martin Buckland.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me here with the privilege to open up this conference. I love the introduction in terms of rock and roll. I am the least rock and roll person to start this conference, I can assure you, but we'll give it a go. So it's a real privilege to kick this off ahead of the keynote. What I want to talk about today is really something that is top of mind for this conference, which is cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. And I guess when I think about Microsoft and artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, it reminds me of a famous quote by Homer. And when I say Homer, I don't mean Homer the philosopher, I mean Homer Simpson. He stands there with a beer and he says, alcohol, the source of and the solution to all my problems. And that's how I see Microsoft when we come to artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. So if you can imagine a workplace, 75% of what we call the knowledge workers utilizing and harnessing the power of AI. You'd think we'd be talking several years ahead, but that's not, that's today. That's what we're seeing in industry at the moment, where people are adopting AI incredibly rapidly. And through the research that we've done, half the people using AI have only started doing it in the last 6 months. And that's the environment that we're working in. And what we're finding from our research, users of Copilot around the world are probably saving about half an hour per day of their productivity, which doesn't sound much, half an hour. But as that rolls up over the course of the month, that's effectively 1 extra day per person of productivity. So if you think about your council, imagine all the productivity that you could achieve, the additional services to citizens, if you could have 1 additional day per employee every month. Artificial intelligence, as you know, is rolling out rapidly, but it can only be done, we can only harness the power of artificial intelligence if it's regulated well. And there's a lot of work taking place around the globe, whether it's ISO and their ISO 42001, this will all become very familiar very soon with you, in terms of their responsible AI standard, and NIST with their AI framework. And what we're finding is jurisdictions and governments are starting to develop AI standards, AI policies and compliance. And Microsoft, we support that because we recognize that if we're developing a capability, particularly AI, it needs to be responsibly managed and you need to build trust in it. Just so you know, the screen's gone blank here for me. Within Microsoft, we've been working on AI now since 2016 when Satya Nadella, our CEO, he introduced his AI design principles. And what that did was it allowed us to really set the stage of how we're going to approach AI, how we're going to develop, I guess, AI design principles, and how we're going to set standards going forward. And what we did in 2019, we actually launched what we call our Responsible AI Standard. And this is providing guidelines for how we build AI systems. And in 2018, we developed what we call our set of AI principles. Now, the principles really are all about building trust, because Microsoft runs on trust. You know, if you don't trust us as an organization, if you don't trust our products, then we don't have a business. And likewise, you're providing services for your citizens, and your constituents they trust you, and they expect you to do the right thing. And it's the same with AI. As we adopt AI, it needs to be built on trust. And these principles, They're fundamental to how we create and how we develop and how we allow humans to become accountable and have oversight on AI. We run a lot of research in Microsoft. We partner with LinkedIn, one of our companies, and we run what we call a Work Trends Index. And we run it every year, and it reaches out across the globe to tens of thousands of delegates who can provide feedback. And when we ran the 2024 Work Trends Index, we found that the most common concerns that we hear from security and risk managers is around, particularly around Gen AI, is what Gen AI is being used in my organization. There's a huge, I guess, fear of shadow IT. Also, in terms of what data is being shared, what sensitive data from my organization is being shared in IT, in AI. And the third one is, how do I stay compliant? There's going to be a lot of regulations coming around this, and I'm sure we'll talk about this over the coming days, but how as an organization do we stay compliant? But in addition to that, the CISOs, the Chief Information Security Officers of the world, have a different set of concerns. Because AI can't be managed like your traditional cybersecurity, your traditional threat vectors. And so how do we understand what vulnerabilities are out there, and how do we start to understand them, measure them, and ultimately control them? There's also a huge amount of emerging threats. We'll talk about in a few moments the new attack vectors, as we call them. And there's a concern about how do we get visibility, and again, what do we do to control it? So when we look at AI, you've got your traditional threat vectors, and when it comes to AI, we've got what we call these non-deterministic threat vectors. Now, these differ from those traditional cybersecurity vectors or attack vectors because you're trying to build in, I guess, defenses and mitigations against an unknown output. Because when you put data into an AI system, you can't control the input. It's natural language. You can't control what the user puts in, because if you try and control what the user puts in, you limit the utility of the AI. And similarly, the output from the AI, it's different every time you put a question in. So therefore, how do you actually manage and support that? So we've got what we call these non-deterministic challenges. And so what Microsoft did, we pulled together, a coalition of the willing. And when ChatGPT-4 came out, we looked at what it could potentially achieve, what were the outcomes of ChatGPT-4. But more to the point, what are the potential threat vectors? And we came up with this set, and it was industry-wide, so it wasn't just Microsoft, but we came up with a set of effectively new threat vectors that we need to consider when rolling out AI. The first one is harmful content and code. Whether harmful language or imagery or code that contains potentially security vulnerabilities. But you'll start to hear about these terms, and I'm sure in the conversation over the next few days, you'll hear about what we call jailbreaks or prompt injections. So, for example, a jailbreak is where a nefarious actor has manipulated the system for it to respond in a different way than was expected. It's not using the grounded information of which the learning model is based on. And a prompt injection is where an attacker embeds hidden code in either an email or a document. But what's most important is the one at the back here, manipulation, human-like behavior. At which point is it okay for an AI system to mimic or potentially be seen as that you're responding to a human? Is that harmful? Is it misleading? And could it be inappropriate? So we need to look at all of these different, threat vectors and look at how we can identify them and ultimately how we can manage them. So I'm sure you've probably, for those of you in the room that are the IT team, you've probably seen this sort of model, the shared responsibility model in relation to cloud computing. We talk about, if you have an on-prem capability, you're responsible for the platform, you're responsible for the hardware. This is our shared responsibility model when it comes to AI. And you can see that the Microsoft or whoever is the enterprise provider of AI for you has a level of responsibility. But as an organization, you will always have your same responsibilities. And responsibility typically sits with the organization in terms of the access. the identity and access management, your data and your data security. So depending on the AI service that you adopt, there'll be more responsibility for you as an organization and less on the provider. So if I took an example of SaaS, if we take Microsoft M365 Copilot, what you can see is that Microsoft are responsible for the platform. We'll provide the security for the platform in terms of the model, the accountability for that model. The application, Microsoft own and are responsible for. But when it comes to the access to that, there's a shared responsibility. And so that's where you as an organization have to manage your responsibilities. And we can provide tools to help you do that, and so can many providers in the room. But you are ultimately still responsible for access to the system and your data. So, with this in mind, when you're looking at the various types of AI and the sensitive data that you've got in your environment, what we recommend is what we call a risk-based approach. So, first of all, there's lots of AI apps out there. And for AI apps that are considered high risk, we recommend that you block them outright. Don't allow your corporate users to access those apps. Now, you can do this through a CASB capability. You can block it in Defender for Cloud. And what will happen is each of the CASB providers will provide a risk rating on apps. If we look within Defender for Cloud, you've got probably 30,000 apps catalogued. And that we catalog them based on about 90 different reference points and give you a score out of 10. So that is basically a trust rating. And the other CASB products do exactly the same. So what I would do is recommend that the ones that are potentially higher risk, you block completely. For the low-risk apps, such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, or even Microsoft Bing Chat, you can allow your users to use these because these come with the enterprise security that sits behind those particular apps. But what you still want to do is you still want to put restrictions in place, only allowing your users to use low-risk data. You can do or non-sensitive data from the organization. So you can do this with data security and access management controls, but you can allow them to use those safely. And then lastly, if we go to the right of the chart, if you're using enterprise-grade AI, such as M365 Copilot, then you can actually, through sensitivity labels, through access controls, you can allow your team to actually work on sensitive data. Because what happens is Copilot allows, it takes the same level of permissions and privileges that you've given to that user and applies that to the data and the usage. So you can use those products safely, but you need to have your security controls in place first. And I think that's really my key point is you've got to think about your AI through a security lens first, so you can roll this out safely and you're in control of it. But don't forget about your people. We ran the Work Trends Index, which I talked about earlier, and there was some very interesting, perceptions about AI. The first one is that a lot of users, well, 37%, so not quite the majority, believe that the AI companies are responsible for security. They believe that we put security embedded across all AI companies. A lot of customers do, a lot of organizations do, but not all. But the other piece on this is people have a huge amount of, understanding of AI. They're starting to adopt it in their personal lives. We see it in every single app that we use, whether it's through Meta, through Facebook. But people understand that AI will generate new attack vectors. It will make it harder to be safe online. But despite of that, I'm sure we've all got Gen Z and millennials working in our environments. 46% of Gen Zs said that they'd used an AI tool with company data without their company knowing it. Now, I'm sure if you look through your environments and did some analysis, you'll see the Gen AI being used by your team. Your team are adopting it whether you like it or not. And so the choice is allow them to do that or start to take control of it. But of these people we surveyed, over half of them had had no training whatsoever on responsible use of AI in their organization. And so I think it's really important that when you're thinking about, before you do any adoption, think about how you can actually educate your users. Educate the members of the council so they understand what the risks are and how they can responsibly use it. Because that will help you, A, get the rollout, but also use it responsibly and use it safely. So, within Microsoft, I thought I'd actually tell you how we've rolled out AI and what we're doing about it, because as I mentioned, we're the poacher and the gatekeeper. We're rolling out AI, but we're responsible for our cybersecurity. And some of you may have heard us talk about this, but at Microsoft, we consider ourselves as customer zero. And the reason we consider ourselves as customer zero is because we've got a big organization and we can test products and services on our own cohort before we roll them out into what we call private preview and GA, or general availability. And this is our digital landscape. It's a snapshot from 2024, so Microsoft make changes every year, so we may not have 220,000 employees now, that might be down a little. But this is the digital landscape that we run. You know, we're a software factory, that's what we do, but this is us. 220,000 employees, 627 physical buildings, but we've got 525,000 employees and vendors using Copilot within our organization. Now, sometimes, for those of you that I've been on a Teams call, sometimes the Teams call might be a little bit dodgy. That's because I use what we call a dog food version of Teams. It's a pre-release version of Teams, which means we've got additional functionality, but the stability may not be quite there. So, if we drop off, you'll understand why. But through this environment, if we look at it from a global perspective, we've got over 300 physical data centers that Microsoft run. That's built into what we call 60 regions. That's more than any other hyperscaler in the market. And this network supports Azure, Office 365, LinkedIn, Xbox. And we've got billions of Windows machines connected to that network, your machines around the globe. We've built in deception capability. We've got honeypots, we've got sinkholes and so forth. But what this network does, at the top level, we get 84 trillion signals a day from this environment. Now, for those of you that are running a SIEM, you look at your events per second going in, we get about 900 million events per second going into our environment. So the only way that we can synthesize this, make sense of it, is through automation and advanced AI. So a lot of the capabilities we've built are for our own use to support our own system. And each year, we use those 84 trillion signals, along with our threat intelligence teams, our geopolitical scientists, our incident response teams, and we curate this into what we call the Digital Defense Report. Now, I'd love to have the 2025 version up here, but it comes out in October for Cybersecurity Month, and LGIT moved the conference forward, so we've got last year's. But effectively, this report, when it comes out, it's publicly available, so I'd recommend you have a look at it. It gives you a huge amount of insight on what's happening in the market. We get telemetry from all around the world. We can tell you about the threat actors out there, the most impacted industries, IT, education, government, healthcare, they're the most impacted segments. But we use the data from this to build our defenses and build, our resilience, which you then ultimately can provide to yourselves. So some of the outputs from last year's report, which I thought were quite interesting, which is when a phishing attack takes place, or once an individual credential has been breached, on average, it only takes 72 minutes for data to be exfiltrated. It's incredibly quick. If we look at the blocked password attacks, this is per second. In 2023, there were 4,000 per second. It's gone up to 7,000 per second across that network that we're seeing. So you can see there's a huge explosion of potential attacks and threats out there. And we've now catalogued, and we look at what we call threat actors. These might be nation-state sponsored, whether they're North Korea, Russia, Iran. We collaborate with the industry. You may have seen recently where with the same taxonomy is used across Microsoft and other organizations. So CrowdStrike is an example. We collaborate with them to make sure that we're getting the same level of intelligence, that we're able to attribute it and therefore build our defenses. Because we recognize that, although we're Microsoft, security is a team sport. There's a lot of security vendors here over the next few days, and we can all contribute to that security for your councils. But what we're seeing is that the threats are increasing, the velocity of threats are increasing, and as an organizations, there's an overwhelming workload that you have to adhere to, or try to manage. One of the outputs of this was that, I think it was 26% of organizations have between 41 and 60 tools in their environment managing their security. Microsoft were the same, don't get me wrong. We used a lot of tools that were from other brands to secure our environment. But you can see that there's a huge amount of complexity there. And the global challenge is probably the same challenge that you'll having here in the regions, is there's not enough skilled cybersecurity practitioners available. They may be in Sydney, in Brisbane, in Melbourne, but you probably struggle to find one in Dungog or in Tamworth. And so that's a challenge that we're all facing. And so this is something which within Microsoft, we've had that challenge ourselves. You can imagine the security team that we've got defending our network. And so these new attack surfaces, we've talked about you're all familiar with the traditional threat vectors of, network, identity, cloud. We've now got these new threat vectors, which has increased what we call the attack surface. And although we can identify what the potential attacks are, we haven't got the answers to how we actually measure them at this point in time, how we monitor them, and ultimately control them. So that will be something that will be developed over time within the industry. So we believe that when it comes to AI, you have to start with security first, because you've got to trust it. Your council's got to trust it, and your constituents have got to trust it. And we have to start with security first. Now, there's probably a lot of people in the room that have been in IT a bit longer than I have. I always say that when people used to talk about Microsoft and security in the same sentence, it normally included the word vulnerability. And that's known. Microsoft have been like that over the years, and I was working for organizations before Microsoft. But the amount of investment and effort that Microsoft have put into security, they've now, I guess, moved it up a notch. And the background behind this is just in 2023, so 2 years ago, Satya Nadella, our CEO, announced what we call the Secure Future Initiative. And he made security the #1 priority in Microsoft, above all else. You're probably hearing a huge amount of noise about AI, but security is our #1 priority. And the reason we've done that is we need to protect our environment. Again, we run on trust. And so our operations must be secure for you as customers. And with the evolving threat, we need to apply what we call a growth mindset to make sure that we're constantly evolving and developing, to make sure we can defend our estate and ultimately provide the products and services to defend your estates. So this Secure Future Initiative is what we call a multi-year initiative where we're running what we call Secure by Design. So when we design a product, it's designed with security up front. It's secure by default, so you'll start seeing coming through your tenants capabilities where there'll be security, but it won't require you to turn it on. It'll be on by default. And we're improving our secure operations. Now, to put this into perspective, we've now put on this project the equivalent of 34,000 engineers. It's the biggest digital project in history, and certainly in Microsoft's 50-year history. So 34,000 engineers are currently working on security. So you'll be forgiven for not being up to date with what Microsoft Security is doing. We'll give you that because it's changing rapidly. But I'm probably like yourselves, where I turn it on one day and the screen has changed or the user input has changed because we're rolling out these developments rather rapidly. But what we've done is we've developed it so that we've got security embedded in our organization. Every single employee has a security KPI. Our senior team are rewarded based on security achievements. So you'll see that over time, our security and the capabilities are improving massively. And what we've done to secure our environment is those 50 categories or 50 products that have been used within security, we've actually pulled those down into what we call one platform. So we can defend our environment. We need to be able to make sure that we've got visibility from A to B, and that we can actually get signals across between whether it's our identity and access management, our email security, or our endpoints, or our cloud. So we've got pre-built connectors within our environment, and this is how we run our security. It's powered by those 84 trillion signals. We understand what's happening, whether it's in an Xbox user attack or an enterprise cloud attack. We can get that visibility. And then what we're doing is, to support this, we've announced, this was last year, we spent $80 billion on infrastructure and AI capability. So that's what we're doing. The way that we run our security is in what we call this platform. You'll see these as products that you're familiar with. Microsoft Defender, Purview, Sentinel. That's how we run our security now. We've pulled it down into this singular platform because it gives us visibility and the ability to actually understand what's happening in our environment and hopefully roll out AI across our environment with trust. So that's what we're doing. So when you think about your digital transformation, AI is important. AI should be the next industrial revolution. But before you think about AI, just start thinking about security. Make sure you've got your identity and access management in place and look at your data security. And with that, I'm here for the next couple of days. I'll probably wear a Microsoft t-shirt tomorrow so I stand out more. And I'll pass over. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. I think today's got a bit of a cybersecurity theme. So after the break, we've got a cybersecurity panel. So as Martin mentioned, catch up with him, reach out, have a conversation during some of the breaks, and just dig deep. I love the fact that he said, yes, start with security, but also to start with your people, engage with your people. Because chances are they're doing things you're like, what are you doing that for? So start having those conversations. So ladies and gentlemen, absolutely pumped for our keynote speaker. Layne Beachley, Order of Australia, is a force of nature. 7-time world surfing champion. Hands up who else has achieved that. I know I haven't. I was lucky just to even get out the back, but 7-time world champion, the only surfer, male or female, to win 6 consecutive world titles, and a woman whose impact reaches far beyond the surf. Her journey from adopted baby to a global icon hasn't been a smooth ride. It's been forged through grit, guts, a deep commitment to growth. Layne's lived experience with mental health challenges, injury, personal loss has become the heartbeat of her message, and that is choice, not chance, determines our destiny. As the founder of Awake Academy, she's on a mission to help 1 million people thrive and live more fulfilled, purposeful lives through game-changing online programs, transformative workshops, and her new book, Awake Academy, Know Yourself and Grow Yourself. And yes, like myself, she's a Gen X baby, so the big challenges with IT coming, obviously through that period, it was basically being able to press play and record the same time while listening to the radio station, getting upset when your siblings come walking and you're like, I'm recording, for crying out loud. Maybe even just getting the pencil into the cassette tape and winding it back. These are the challenges, the IT challenges that Gen X faced. Yep, getting tangled up in the telephone cord. So so she's a master of Atari, using the joystick. So basically, Space Invaders. Anyone played Space Invaders? Absolute legend of the game Space Invaders. So before surfing the real waves. So from Atari joysticks to powerful purpose, Layne knows how to play and win on every level. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the one, the only Layne Beachley.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here this afternoon. Is anyone shit scared about IT? Anyone other than me? Yeah. Does anyone see it as a threat? Who sees IT as a threat? No one. Yeah? Anyone see it as an opportunity? Martin, that was a really powerful presentation. Thank you. What's really interesting about when it comes to building trust, there's 3 pillars to building trust. Number 1 is empathy, and that's the thing that IT lacks, or AI lacks, is empathy. That's where we have the distinct advantage as human beings, is that we have empathy, and as long as we maintain our empathy, we will actually maintain our competitive advantage and our relevance. The second pillar that supports trust or builds trust is authenticity. Speaking it real, being human, and being open and vulnerable and honest. And the last thing that builds trust is logic. And I think that's where AI may have a bit of a distinct advantage, is maintaining logic and allowing things to be really clearly understood. So if we want to build trust with something that we don't understand, the first thing we need to do is not actually understand that thing better, it's actually to help understand our own things better. And the reason I asked the questions at the start, like who sees it as a threat, who's scared of it, who sees it as an opportunity, your relationship with it will determine your approach to it. And that relationship is an extension of the relationship you have with yourself. So I'm not here to talk about IT, thankfully. You are the digital lifeguards of your organisation. This presentation will not require you to refresh, reset, a password, crash, freeze, reset anything. This is all about helping you reset your own nervous system. Because it's your nervous system that carries the weight of other people's responsibilities, right? Whenever someone buys software or does something tech-focused and it breaks down, they turn to the IT wizard and say, come fix it, come help me. So it's almost like you're on high alert waiting for things to fail before you start to turn around and start focusing on how can you show up better? How can you be the lifeguard for your own well-being? Does that sound like something you might be interested in? Yeah? Geez, you're a lively audience. This is going to be great. Okay, so for those of you who do take notes on your phone, this may be a challenge because the minute your phone is in front of you or near you and you feel a vibration or you get a ping, it's going to delete or dissolve or decrease your level of focus by 30%, and it's going to take your brain about 20 minutes to get your concentration back to where it was before you got the stimulation, before you got the ping. So if you can, please remove your phones from the table. Put them on the floor, put them on the bag, put them in a bag. Just get them away from you so they're not distracting you. Because the minute something pings, especially with your wearables, turn your things onto airport mode, whatever it takes to eliminate some of these distractions. I am very easily distracted. I attribute that mostly to being a Gemini. Any other Geminis in the room? Yeah? Squirrels, shiny things, lights. Easily distracted. So I know the importance of removing phones from my space if I want to be present and more engaging. So as you heard in the introduction, I am a 7-time world champion. I'm the only surfer in the world to have won 6 consecutive world titles. That's right, King Kelly only won 5 in a row. Yeah. He did go on to win 11. Show off. But the reason I have this particular slide up to start with is just to give you context around the lessons that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Now, I won 2 world titles in love and 5 world titles in fear. And the reason that there's a really important message is because right now we're probably operating in states of fear, and perhaps we've convinced ourselves that that's how we get the best out of ourselves. When in actual fact, when you're in a state of fear, it's having significant impact on your health and well-being. The 2 world titles that I won in a state of love have the little purple heart over the top of them. World titles number 1 and world titles number 7. They are the bookends of my surfing career. Now the difference between world titles 1 and 7 and 2 and 6 are pretty simple but quite significant. And I just want to preface, when you hear the words world title, for example, I know are there any other world champions in the room? Just checking. No? Okay. The reason I ask that question is sometimes there is. But the reason I'm asking you to find the similarities in our stories, not the differences. Sure, there's no other world champions in the room, but you are all working towards something as meaningful or as important or as insignificant in your life. It's just not a world title, but it may be the equivalent of that. So find the similarities, not the differences. World titles number 1 and 7 were process-driven. What I mean by that is I was in love with the process of being a better surfer, of being a better human being, of being a better competitor. When we're focusing on the process, the outcome takes care of itself. If you're really clear about the outcome, You can establish a really clear process. I was very clear. I wanted to be a world champion. And so now I needed to focus on the process to enable me to achieve that. In the first 7 years of my professional surfing career, because it took me 8 years to win a world title, in the first 7 years I would refer to myself as a classic victim. It was everyone else's fault. It was the conditions, the judges, my boards, my lack of experience, my lack of knowledge. And when you're encroaching upon something new and challenging, we judge what we don't know. We judge what we don't understand, and we fear what we don't know. And when we're in those mental states and we hold ourselves back, it's very easy and very quick to lay the blame and point the finger that it's everyone else's fault for the failures or the setbacks or the obstacles. It took me a moment just to stop and go, hang on, what's the common denominator to my pain and suffering? And the common denominator was me. My thought patterns, my behaviours, my actions, everything kept coming back to me. I had to be the change I wanted to see. So I started falling in love with process. I fell in love with the process of understanding nutrition better, of creating a hydration schedule, of understanding how the importance of sleep impacts my ability to focus and therefore perform. I started to understand my equipment so much more that I became a bit of a mentor to my peers, where they would come to me asking me what boards to ride and what fins to use. Now, when your peers are asking you what equipment to use, you know you've got them. And I was willingly and open and honest with all the information they needed, but deep down I knew they don't have confidence in their choices. They're relying on me to guide them. Bring in all the knowledge, all the questions you want. I'm here to share it. But I also know that I've done the work, so I've got the distinct advantage. So when I focused on all these little things and I fell in love with process, I won my first world title in what I refer to as a state of love and gratitude and ease. But it's amazing when you achieve what it is that you really want, all of a sudden, I don't know about you, but for the minute I achieved my goal, I put an extra amount of pressure and expectation on my shoulders to be deserving or worthy of doing it again. Ooh, this thing just vibrated. Did you do that? Squirrel. Now, so world title number 2 went from being process-driven to outcome-driven. Now, the difference for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they were all outcome-driven. You can see that the words that I used to describe those particular competitive seasons are all anchored in fear. Whether it's ego, trying to prove myself, comparing myself to others, which leads to a sense of all of those things I experienced across all of those years, but they dominated the proceedings. And that's really important. Because when you think about succeeding or achieving something great, I reflect back on those world titles and realised I was striving through struggle. So are you striving through struggle and hustle and pain? What's driving that choice? Do you believe success has to be hard? Do you believe that it's only worthy if you show how hard it's been? And look, and that mentality we've inherited from our teachers and our parents. You're only deserving of success if you work hard. Work hard and you'll be working. So all of those messages have been thrown at us when we're very young, and we believe, actually let me ask you, hands up if you believe success has to be hard. Be honest. There's only 5. Okay. All right, majority of you. Now the thing about that is you can't change what you can't see. It's good that you're honest with it. The second thing is, if you believe success has to be hard, you are a self-fulfilling prophecy. What that means is you will find evidence in your life to prove yourself that that is true. Because here's something you may not know about yourself. You'd rather be right than happy. I'll just let that sink in for a moment. You'd rather be right than happy. And I proved myself right year after year after year. Success has to be hard. I have to endure pain, suffering, and struggle. I was then tagged as having the compassion of a tiger shark. Everyone was in my way and on my way. I had no compassion, no empathy. And that meant because I had none for myself, I was unable to extend it to anybody else. I suffered in 1999, a wave ceiling height landed on the small of my lower back in a semi-final at Sunset Beach in Hawaii. It folded me in half. My heels touched the back of my head. I'm not that flexible. It crushed my lumbar spine, and I paddled out 30 minutes later to win the event. In the year 2000, I tore my medial ligament and paddled back out 10 days later. They said a 6 to 8 week recovery. In the year 2001, at Chopu in Tahiti, I had a wave land on the right on the middle of my neck, and I felt something crack. My left arm went numb. I had pain and atrophy and like a burning sensation between my shoulder blades that sometimes flared up under immense stress, like a hot, blunt butter knife being wedged between my shoulder blades. And I just ignored that pain for 5 years until I finally got an MRI that showed that I had 80% of my spinal cord severed from that injury. And I persevered. I pushed through because I can prove to you that I'm worthy of success. I can prove to you how hard it has to be. Don't ever question my work ethic. Don't ever question how disciplined and determined I am to succeed. And then in 2003, I had adrenal fatigue. I was completely broken, but I still had to win. So a lot of questions, one of the questions I'm often asked is, do you think you would have achieved the success that you craved without that kind of mentality? And I can honestly say yes, because World Titles 7 and 1 prove it to me. I can win in love, and I can also succeed in fear. But what is it costing you? So today I'm not going to shine a light on what it's costing you. I'm actually going to equip you with a toolkit to ensure that you don't suffer like I did. That if you are in a state of suffering, if you are in a state of depletion, exhaustion, and overwhelm, I'm going to equip you with a toolkit that I wish I had when I was going through these phases. And so all of these things are the impact of stress when it comes to problem solving, our memory, our creativity, behaving in ways, lashing out, being a person that's incongruent with who we truly want to be. That's the effect of stress on us at work. And what happens at work happens at home. So we go home as the angry dad or the dictator mum. It impacts our sleep. Then our health declines. And the mental overload causes continuous stress, which is why these modern day cycles of stress continue, because our essential needs have been met, but we've inherited these past fears from our ancestors, because there's no saber-toothed tigers anymore. But you know what? We could view AI as a saber-toothed tiger. We can view mortgage crises. We can view anything as a potential threat. And the way we view it will then determine how we feel about it, and how we feel about it will then determine how we either respond or react to it. So our modern day stresses are leading to burnout. And until we change our relationship with ourselves, we can't feel safe. And all we really need is that sense of safety. We want to feel safe. There's no bigger burning desire in humans than to feel like we belong, because that gives us that sense of safety and connection. If we don't, this is what it amounts to. 3.5 million Australians will have a mild to moderate mental health injury or illness. I'm one of them. I have suffered from bouts of depression, anxiety, and suicidality. And I'm very fortunate that I now understand when I'm going into those states and find ways, and I have a toolkit to help me out of them. But you don't have to have a mental health illness to have poor mental health. My 5th world title, for example, I was at the top of my game. I was the best in the world, and I deeply hated myself. I had a very bad relationship with myself, and I was in a very poor mental state. So you actually don't have to go and be prescribed medication or walk into a clinic to have poor mental health. But I want to help you avoid that by equipping you with the toolkit that I wish I had. So today is all about helping you revive and thrive. How do we revive and thrive? Well, we help maintain our sense of perspective through prioritising our health and well-being, understanding what lifts us, what energises us. We surround ourselves with our dream team, because the law of proximity states we become the sum of the top 5 people we spend the most time with. And then finally, we prioritise self-care. So let's get into it. Who here's running on empty? Hands up. Come on. Just because you had a coffee at lunchtime? Okay. Only a quarter of you are being honest. Most of us are running on empty, and that's okay. But what's not okay is that we run on empty day after day after day. So if you think about these 5 really integral areas of your life, I want you to rate them out of 10. Just pick a number, the first number that comes to you. When it comes to your health and well-being, how would you rate that out of 10? 1 being, I'm always sick. I'm always recovering. I'm never really feeling good about myself or never feeling healthy. Or you're the kind of person that can't wait to go on that holiday, and then you spend the first week on holiday sick, you spend the second week recovering from the sickness, and then you come home and you need a holiday from the holiday. That's about a 2. Otherwise, you're managing your health and well-being, and majority of the year you actually feel pretty vibrant. Mindset. A 1 is you're a negative Nancy that has a problem for every solution. A positive person, yeah. Is anyone awake? I've got a pill for that. A positive mindset is the kind of person that maintains levels of optimism, reality, can accept feedback, doesn't take everything critically or personally, has a sense of balance with their mindset. When it comes to energy, a 1 is you rely on stimulants to wake you up every day and sedatives to get you back to sleep. If that's too close to home, we need to talk. When it comes to your family, a 1 is, do you remember your siblings' names? And then when it comes to your work, a 1 is, are you all work and no play? Do you work at home? Do you work at the dinner table? Do you work on weekends? That's a -1. And we need to find a little more balance in that. So now that you've rated yourself out of all these areas, let's ask this question. And once you've answered A, B, C, or D, or E, when you think about your relationship with these areas, which one do you believe has the most profound impact on achieving sustained success and self-care? Which one has the most positive influence? So please, once you've answered the question, either A, B, C, D, or E, please stand up. Any time today would be good. I'm only here for another 40 minutes, so you better get up. Please stand up. If you're able to, I invite you all to stand up. You've been sitting long enough now. Put your left foot in. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So if you answered the letter A, no, actually, let's start with E. Let's see if there's any workaholics in the room. If you answered the letter E, please sit down. Oh, you're about to get a caulking to, young man. I had someone that sit down. Did you just sit down? Letter E? Okay, you're a workaholic. Oh my goodness, you are. Are you married? Is she still with you? Okay. Oh, you work for Citibank? What's the slogan? City never sleeps. Yeah. What's that? So the Citibank have a slogan, City never sleeps, and the staff have added another slogan, City employees never sleep. Oh, City never allows us to sleep. Yeah, okay. We're going to have a talk after this. Okay, you failed the test. If you answered the letter A, please sit down. If you answered the letter D, family, please sit down. And if you answered the letter B, mindset, please sit down. Did anyone answer energy? Yes, and you? Anyone else down this end? Oh, round of applause for the energy people. Stay standing, please. Why did you answer energy?
I feel when I have energy, I can invest myself in all the other aspects.
Awesome. And how do you get your energy? Supplements. Okay, is that Ellie? Effie. Thank you, Effie. And switching off. That's how you get your energy? It will improve if you switch off. So, but you answered energy because you must have misunderstood. We know who the good listener is in the room today, don't we? Please take a seat, thank you. Okay, so why is energy important? Because it is the unseen force necessary when it comes to growth, development, and change. Between the mind and the body, it's the mode of communication. It helps provide vitality in the body. And like Effie correctly said, if you don't have the energy to show up for yourself, you are not going to have the energy to consistently show up for everybody else in your life. That includes your family, your colleagues, your own mental state, and your health. So we need to learn how to manage our energy a little bit better. And why is it important? Well, this is an MRI scan of people who have different layers of energy. And so energy doesn't lie. Our bodies don't lie. Our bodies are carrying these types of energy around with us all the time. So you can imagine if I walked in sad, you can see where the sadness would show up. In my head, in my chest, and actually across my whole body. You can see sadness. You can experience it. Has anyone seen Inside Out? Yeah. I think that's a great film that depicts how our emotions and our energy show up, especially Inside Out 2. I love it when anxiety comes in and just takes over the whole thing and just spins around in circles. But this is really important because we need to understand where energy shows up and how it impacts our lives, because we are energetic beings. And once we understand how it impacts us, we know how it's impacting others. And then we can start taking responsibility for how we want to show up and how we want to feel. Because ultimately we get to choose, right? It's our decisions, not the conditions, that determine the quality of our lives. If we want to make better conditions, we can start with making better decisions. So I know when I'm in states of depletion, of energy depletion, this is what happens to me. I compare myself. And when I compare myself to either others or other versions of me or other states, I feel inadequate. And now I'm in a state of self-doubt. I go into a state of self-loathing. I beat myself up. I criticize myself. I give myself a hard time. I tear strips off myself. And now I'm in a state of self-doubt and self-loathing. I start craving everything that's going to give me a little dopamine boost. It could be doom scrolling, or it could be eating something that starts with a C. Chips, chocolate, cake, cheese. Hot chippies are my weakness. But those cravings over a long period of time cause so much harm to my health and well-being that they are now indicators to me that I'm on burnout. I'm bordering on burnout because I value my health and well-being. I've compromised it so many times, I know how valuable it is to me because our values emanate from our darkest voids. And when I've lost my health and well-being and lost sense of who I am and what I love, then that's an indication to me that I've been giving too much away. We love to give, but we also need to give to ourselves. So when I'm in these states, I know I've bordered on burnout. But what are my triggers? These 3 triggers put me back into one of those 3 states. Negative feedback is a big one for me. Rejection is probably the most significant. I'm an adoptee. I was adopted into a beach-loving family with the last name Beachley and became a world champion. Ta-da! But when my dad told me I was adopted, I have this immense feeling of fear of rejection. I believe that I was rejected by my own mother, and that fear drove my behaviours for a long time. There's a common denominator in all adoptees, and that is a fear of rejection. We fear that we never belong, that we've not been accepted, we've always been rejected. And that fear, for me, showed up in 2 ways. I either behaved in a way that gave people reason to reject me, or I rejected them first. Either way, trust was always low. Future thinking creates anxiety. Future thinking puts us into the future, which increases our levels of anxiety, which elevates our heart rate, and it makes us worry about how we're going to cope with something that hasn't happened yet. Not a productive use of our thoughts. Yet that's where a lot of us tend to find ourselves. So I know when I'm in any of these states, I'm now going to resort back to one of those 3 C's. I'm going to compare myself, I'm going to criticize myself, or I'm going to eat shit food. So, this is a really important fact. Emotions are energy in motion. And our emotions last in our body for 90 seconds. 90 seconds. But what we do when we feel sad, angry, frustrated, annoyed, what do? Push it down. Think about a big beach ball. Think about standing in a pool and you have a big beach ball in your hand. When you don't own your emotions and you're pushing down, that's what you're doing. You're trying to keep that beach ball underwater. How hard is that? How draining is that? How exhausting is that? That's what we're doing when we don't own our emotions. We just keep pushing down that beach ball and it feels like it's getting heavier and full of more air until it just bursts and pops out when we least expect it. If we can learn how to honour the fact that we feel a different way and not identify with it, then we can acknowledge it and let it go. And what I mean by not identifying with it, I mean is if you're feeling angry, feel angry. But by saying I am angry, you have now identified with anger and you are that. Versus I am feeling angry, you've acknowledged the feeling and you've liberated it. I wish we were taught this in school. It sounds really simple. but it takes a bit of self-awareness. So suppressing your thoughts and emotions keeps them stuck in your body for a lifetime. They just get stored. So pop the beach ball. So these are the reasons why I feel that we need to boost our energy. If we want to be more proactive, if we want to be more present, if we want to be more purposeful, does anyone want to be any of these things? If that's the case, then you're in the right room. So let's talk about boosting our energy. And these are the 3 tips and life hacks that I use to help me navigate my way through busy times, especially when it's a really demanding period of my life. Number 1 is water. Now, this is a really important one. Our brains are 60%, our bodies are 60% water, our brains are made up about 75% water. You lose almost a litre of water a night just through your breathing. If you wake up hungry, it's actually an indication that you may be dehydrated. Trust your thirst, it's there for a reason. Now, I have asked you to put your phones away, and now I'm going to ask you to bring them back out for me, please, and open up your calculator. Resist the temptation to look at emails, text messages, or notifications from any of your social media platforms. Open up your calculator and put the number 35 in there and multiply that number by your body weight. Most of you are numbers people. You probably don't even need the calculator. Your body weight in kilograms multiplied by 35 and then divide that final number by 1,000. You'll come with 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4 point something. The bigger you are, the bigger the number. That represents the amount of litres of water you need to drink every day. Anyone look at that and go, oh shit, I'm not anywhere near that. Who here has to drink over 2 litres of water a day? Hands up. Wow. All right, keep your hands up if you are. And we lost nearly all of you. Okay, great. Start with 2 litres. If you have to drink more than that, just start with 2 litres. Start somewhere. Find a water bottle that sparks joy, preferably a glass or a metal one or a BPA-free one. But start with a water bottle that you know how many mils are in it. I have a 700 ml bottle. I have to drink 2.1 litres a day. Therefore, I know if I drink 3 of those bottles per day, I've hit my quality. I've hit my quantity of water. Coffee, black tea, alcohol, juice, and soda drinks, kombucha, don't count. I am such a party pooper. They don't count. So start incorporating more water into your day. Now, if you find that you're drinking more water and it's not making you feel hydrated, that's an indication that you are deeply dehydrated, cellularly dehydrated. Add some sea salt to your water, add some coconut water to your hydration schedule, just start getting more water into your body. Because we can endure weeks without food, but we can only endure days without water. And you're probably thinking, I don't have time to drink that much water, especially if you work at Citibank. The great thing about drinking more water is you will naturally lose weight because it suppresses your appetite and you'll be moving a lot more. You'll be getting micro breaks, so you'll actually be clearer in your mind and more productive, and you'll be getting away from things that may be consuming you and giving your subconscious mind a chance to solve those issues. And secondly, you'll be hydrating your brain. So if you suffer from constipation or you suffer from chronic migraines or headaches, they are all indicative of dehydration. So start getting more water into your life. It's a really simple one. I can see a lot of this in the blokes in the room. It's like, fuck you, I'm not drinking more water. Who's this champion telling me to drink more water? All right, well, if you don't want to drink more water, how about having more fun? Your love to-do list is your permission slip to bring more play and joy into your lives. Now, this is a great thing to do for you workaholics because a lot of people don't ever want to quit their jobs because they think, what the fuck am I going to do with my time? All I've done is work. Like, what am I going to do if I don't work? This is where you start planning what life looks like when you're not working. And it includes friends and family and people. This is part of my list. Now, if you've never stopped to think about what you love to do, think about what you did as a kid. Because I loved doing all of these things as a kid, other than massages and date nights with my husband. That would have been creepy. Especially when I was 14 years of age at my first INXS concert, back there in my Garfield jumper. There's my future husband on stage with a saxophone and his red suit. There's my future husband. Can you imagine him? Here's my future wife, 14-year-old, back there with the Garfield jumper. How creepy. Any INXS fans in the room? Yeah? Cool. The rest of you can go. I'm married to one of the founding members of INXS. That's why I share that story. Kirk, the saxophonist and guitarist. So now I'm going to give you an opportunity to start thinking about things that you love to do. But before I do that, I just want to impress upon you the idea around all or something. We need to have an all or something mentality about it, because all you golfers in the room, there's no way you're going to find 6 hours every day to play golf. But you can find 20 minutes every second day or every day to go to the driving range and hit a few balls. All you tennis players, you can hit a ball against the wall or play with your kids. Or go grab your dog and go and hit balls for the dog to chase. There's ways that we can incorporate our joys into our life. I have an all or something mentality. I don't always have the time to surf, unfortunately, and I still do surf every day. The tan's an occupational hazard. But if I don't have time to surf, I jump in the water and have a swim. If I'm nowhere near the ocean, I'll walk barefoot in the grass. If I haven't made the time for that, I will sit with my face in the sun for 5 minutes. Anything to help rejuvenate me, because these are little micro breaks that calm my central nervous system, that suppress the stress response and fill me full of energy and rejuvenate my energy. So what is it that you love to do? I'm going to give you 90 seconds to write down as many things as you can think of that you love to do. Ready, steady, go. This is the interactive part, by the way. You're welcome to write things down. Music, please. Music, please. Hello? AV's gone to sleep. Hey, thank you. Oh, that's not exactly the kind of music I was looking for. But anyone that likes to go to a rave, maybe put that on your list. If you can't think of anything, like I said, go back into your childhood and think about things, or draw an inspiration from my list, or share with each other things that you love to do. It may be sleeping in clean sheets, walking the dog, having a beer on a Friday afternoon. There's no right or wrong to this. It's just your own accountability to actually start scheduling things that you enjoy, to help you navigate your way through busy periods. I don't know about you, but if I've just given all week long, on the weekend, if I don't do something for me, actually every day if I don't do something for me, I start feeling a little bit resentful and bitter, and you don't get the best of me. Cool? Okay, you can turn the music off now, thank you. Yay. Okay. Now, our brains are in overdrive. We each have between 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. If there's any other Geminis in the room, around 120,000 thoughts a day. And they are on repetitive overdrive. 95% of our thoughts are repetitive, and 75% of them are negative. That's the primitive brain, the lizard brain, the old primal network that we're still operating on an iOS of 1 as far as our brains are concerned. They haven't upgraded our internal program. But that's up to us to do. But that means tuning in and giving ourselves a software update. That means recognizing when our current software operating system is not functioning optimally. Why is this important? Because the relationship that we have with ourselves sets the tone for every other relationship in our lives. So please, turn to the person next to you and tell them, what was the first thing you thought or said to yourself when you woke up this morning? Go. Behind you. All right. If we're in the business of building relationships with others, I'd love to know what kind of relationship you have with yourself. Did anyone have anything positive to say when they woke up this morning? No? Yeah? Jeff, what did you say this morning? I love waking up. That's a good mentality. I love that. I'm going to adopt it. Up the back of the room. Sorry, what? What did you say? Oh, beauty. You can come back any day. Thank you very much. Okay, so why is this important? Because if we wake up in a negative mindset, I don't know about you guys, but this is what happens to me, right? I wake up and I think, oh God, that was a shit sleep. I am so tired. And the first thing I do is I project into the future, levels increasing of anxiety, heart rate, agitation, adrenaline, cortisol. It's going to be a hard day. Whew, I'm already tired. And then I walk into the bathroom and I look in the mirror and go, oh God. Oh. Wrinkly. Walk, go and put some clothes on, feel fat in that, feel frumpy in that looks shit, oh fuck, that'll do. And then I don't know, I don't drink coffee, you imagine me on caffeine. But I then go out into the world, hating myself, but trying to convince you that it's all good. It's all good. I hate myself, but it's all good, right? And now I'm going to behave in a way all day where I'm either going to lash out or take things out on people, and now I'm going to be backpedaling and feel ashamed and guilty, and now I'm exhausted and depleted because I haven't really taken any time for myself today, because I don't feel really good about myself today. And then I'm going to go home, maybe have a really bad meal, probably drown myself in another glass or two of wine, go to bed, have a really bad sleep because alcohol dehydrates you and prevents you from going into deep REM sleep, wake up feeling shit tomorrow and do it all again. Too close to home? How can we short-circuit that? What are the two most powerful words in the English language? Does anyone know? There's not an F in any of them either way. Go surfing. Yes, I'm with you. Thank you, Michelle. Here you go. I'll shortcut the struggle. These are the two most powerful words. Why? Anyone want to take a guess? Take a stab. Exactly. How you use these words shapes your reality. The conversation the relationship you have with yourself becomes your norm, becomes your relationship. So if you wake up thinking, I am tired, every time you use the words I am and put a word after them, you're going to be supported in that emotional state. The thing is, our subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what's imagined and what's real. If you're telling yourself one thing yet believing another, your subconscious connects to the belief. So if you say, I am happy, but then in the depths of your belief pattern is, actually, I don't deserve happiness, that's what your connection will be. The good thing is, much like the 84 trillion connections that we have in AI, in our brains we have 86 billion neurons that can be rewired through consistency. And that consistency starts with clarifying who do you want to be and how do you want to show up. On the January 1st of every year, I create a mantra that holds me accountable to show up as the best version of me based on how I want to show up. Not the conditions of my life dictating it to me, but the decisions I make dictating it to my life. Because you don't get to decide who I am. You don't get to decide how I feel about myself, and you don't get to decide the relationship that I have with me. I get to decide. You get to decide how you feel about you and how you want to show up, or you allow life to decide that for you. Either way, it's up to you. I'm giving you a tool that helped me win my 6th consecutive world title. I was literally sitting in the water 15 minutes away from achieving my goal, and deep down I knew something wasn't right. Instead of looking at the horizon, my eyes were looking at the water. If you're looking for a wave to catch, you're not going to find it underneath your board. You're going to find it on the horizon. And I started tuning into what I was thinking. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm fed up. I've had enough. I'm sick of my peers hating me because I'm winning all the time. A little. But I was literally exhausted, and I started listening to what I was saying. I'm like, I'm talking myself out of winning. I'm talking myself out of my goal. Why? Self-sabotage is comfortable, man. It's familiar. That control, it's an alluring drug. And I kept coming back to the fear, and I kept grounding myself in the fear. And then I sat up on my board, and I took a deep breath, and I went, I am going to get out of my own way. I am going to win today. I am going to be a 6 times world champion. Because I have done the work. I am experienced. I am equipped. I am successful. I am happy. I am calm. I am present. I am tenacious. I am disciplined. I am resilient. All of those things are what I am. The other things are just feelings. I am feeling tired. I am feeling depleted. I am feeling overwhelmed. But I identified with them. I am tired. I am depleted. I am overwhelmed. And so I stuck to those. They became my anchors until I took a deep breath and went, actually, that's not who I want to be. So who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? because I can't determine that for you, but you can determine that. I have those words next to my bathroom mirror, especially on the days when I wake up feeling a little bit depleted and overwhelmed, because that's where I get triggered. I can tear strips off myself very quickly. So I come back to those words as my anchor point. Or if I receive negative feedback, or if I feel like I've been insulted or attacked, I come back to those words as opposed to just anchoring myself on other people's opinions of me. So, now it's your turn. Here's a list of words. I'm going to give you, once again, 90 seconds to find 3 words that best describes who you want to be and how you want to show up. Music, please. Any 3. Make them as aspirational as possible. But these are your accountability partner. They're going to help you show up consistently as your best self. And the good thing about this particular exercise is that it can be situational. So there's times when I need to believe that I have to be something else. For example, if I'm about to paddle into a wave that is scaring the shit out of me at cloud break and it's 15 foot and I am scared, I reinforce my beliefs through I am strong, I am capable, and I am equipped. And I just keep coming back to that anchor. So what words can you anchor your confidence on and that you can consistently recite so you're making better decisions about the conditions of your life? I'll give you another 30 seconds. And then share those words with the people you're sitting next to, because they're accountability now. Ten seconds. You can also just make it 1 if you want. I asked my husband to do this exercise. I gave him a post-it note. I said, write down as many words with the words I am before it. Otherwise, if there's any Anchorman, anyone ever watched Anchorman? You know, where he goes, I love lamp, I love carpet, I love light. Yeah, so it becomes that flippant. So when you use these words and these statements, the words I am have to be before it. And my husband wrote down 3 words and stuck it next to his bathroom mirror. And it said, I am awesome. You're welcome to use that one too. All right, come back to the room. Welcome back. Now, as we know, our brains are on hyperdrive, and I'm not going to go, there's a lot of words on these screens. So I just wanted to bring your attention to one thing. Well, actually 2 things on this left-hand side, which is the bad fuel. Is the negative self-talk, which is the I am exhausted, I am depleted, I am overwhelmed, I am stupid, I am ugly, I am fat, whatever those words are. That negative self-talk over time becomes like a radio station that you can't change the channel of, until you tune into it and saying, is this supporting my growth or sabotaging me? Is this supporting my happiness or is it sabotaging it? Am I staying in this because I'd rather be right than happy? That negative self-talk needs to change. And the other thing that you can take back to your office and back to your colleagues is the venting and gossiping. Science has shown that if you vent to someone for longer than 7 minutes, you reduce your own happiness and the happiness of the person you're venting to by 30%. No more venting and gossiping for longer than 7 minutes. If you're the HR person, yeah, everyone's like, oh, what? Who are the HR people in the room? Who are the problem solvers in the room? Who are the yes people? Yeah, okay. You're the people that get shat on all day, okay? So here's what you can do, and this is how you get your life back. You go, okay, you've got 7 minutes to download. It was like, what? And then we're going to go into solutions mode. So the first question is, what are your challenges? Go. 7 minutes. The next part is, how can I help you? What are the solutions that you're considering? And then the third part is, what can we do together to achieve a different outcome? So it's about being solutions focused and outcomes focused after you've identified what the challenges are. If you let someone go for longer than 7 minutes, I would just walk away. Press pause. But it's very taxing and very depleting. So, the next part of boosting our energy is defining our dream team. Now, I grew up surfing at Manly Beach. Anyone familiar with Manly Beach? Yeah? Most appropriately named beach in the world. It is still very manly. Can you see the two stormwater pipes? There's one right here in the middle of the photo and one kind of up in front of that little yellow building. They divide the beach and they create this little territories. So down this end of the beach, down this left side, is what we refer to as South Stain. And that's where I honed my craft. I started surfing as a 4-year or 5-year-old down here at South Stain on my foamy. And as I became a more competent surfer, I started graduating up the beach. It's kind of like going through high school. And then I found myself in year 8, well, still on my foamy, but I moved up to here because this is where there was a bit more power in the ocean. And then I graduated from my foamy onto a fiberglass surfboard. And I found myself in front of that first pipe. I even started my own board riders club called Manly Pipe Riders. I was the president and I was the only female member. But there was about 16 of us that congregated there every afternoon after school and every weekend. And I'd found my tribe. I found my dream team. But that was at the time that I declared to the world that I was going to become a world champion surfer. And when you declare something as bold and audacious as that, you find out who your friends are very quickly. But I also identified that if I want to be the best surfer in the world, I need to surround myself with people who are better than me. I need to surf with people who are better than me because they elevate me. Remember I said the law of proximity states that we become the sum of the top 5 people we. I spent a lot of my time with people who supported my current state but didn't challenge me to grow. And I wanted to be challenged. So I started to encroach upon North Stain. Now that's that yellow surf club. There is year 11 for me as far as my graduation process up the beach. And that's where I encountered a lot of threats and taunts and hostility and challenges. Guys paddling up to me, grabbing my leash and pulling me off waves. Pushing me off my board, splashing water into my face, paddling out and going, "You're a girl, get out of the water." I look at them and go, "What are you doing out here then?" They didn't like the fact that I stood up for what I believed in, but 2 things gave me the confidence to do that. Number 1, I had a very clear vision. I wanted to be a world champion. Number 2, for every one of those 5 guys around me giving me a hard time, there was always one guy willing to back me up. And that one guy became an integral part of my dream team. That experience taught me the importance of finding my allies. Now, as a woman in a male-dominated household, a male-dominated surfing world, a male-dominated environment, as a chairwoman, as a director, I understand now the importance of that experience in helping me identify who are my allies, who is in my dream team, because they give you the confidence to speak, and they also have the authority to speak on your behalf when you lose your confidence, like I can often do around a boardroom table. So finding your allies, finding your dream team are the people who are supportive and encouraging. They're compassionate and respectful. They bring the best out in you. They celebrate you. They elevate you. Who is in your dream team? Who are those people? Similarly, who are the dream thieves? The guys at Manly, the dream thieves, that always told me, "You're never going to make it. You're a girl. You're not good enough. You're not talented enough. You're not strong enough." There was always something of not enoughness for them. They're very quick to criticize and judge and ridicule. You know those people, don't you? And then you think about you in your own life. Which column do you sit in? At home and at work? Are you a dream team member at work but a dream thief at home? Or vice versa? And how can you position yourself back into the dream team where you're consistently showing up as a dream team member? Because what puts us into a dream thief mentality is the second word down on that list. Judgment. When we're judging, we are what we judge. And if we're projecting that fear onto others, then we are keeping people here at all times. And they are always going to let you down. Expectations of others are never going to be met. That's what disappointment is. that's a result of unmet expectations. So think about yourself and think about the people in your life. Now, the biggest mistake you can make from personal experience, by the way, the dream thieves, don't tell them. They don't like it, okay? Don't tell your dream thieves that they're a dream thief. The tool here is to empower yourself to know the difference, because from my experience, when I encounter dream thieves, I give away my power. If I'm depleted before I go and engage with the dream thief, I get exhausted, and because now I'm depleted and exhausted, I go into that scared little girl who's just been told she's adopted. I go into this 8-year-old girl, that's how old I was when my dad told me I was adopted, and it's like I retreat, and I go into freeze, fight, or flight. And I behave in a way that's not congruent with me. I stray away from my values. I stray away from my truth. I stray away from growth, and I just retreat. Because I'm now surrounded by a dream thief, and I don't know how to respond. Whereas now I know who my dream thieves are, I can equip myself, I can boost my energy, I can do a breathing exercise, go and get my face in the sun, but I know I'm about to encounter a dream thief, and I have to stand strong, stand in my truth, and find my ally to back me up. So who are your dream thieves and who are your dream team members? And perhaps connect with them and let them know. Last thing we're going to talk a little bit about is self-care. Why is it important? Because it makes you happy. And then why is that important? Because happy people thrive. If you want to stay in your job longer, if you want to have fewer sick days, if you want to increase your levels of sales and accuracy, and feel more productive, then we need to prioritise self-care, because that just makes us happier. And my goal here is to help you thrive. To do that, you have to believe you can, and that you're worthy of it. So if we're all invested in hard work, to achieve high performance, you need to be working in harmony with hard work. That means prioritising these 3 things: your well-being, your sense of connection with your dream team and yourself, and your sense of purpose. These things will help you stay in harmony with the workload that you have. But the minute those things get out of balance, we go into hustle mode. And this is the result of hustle mode. And if we stay in a state of unfulfillment or dissatisfaction, or we compromise our health and well-being, then we suffer the consequences. And those consequences are pretty profound, where it's compromising our health, our relationships, our connection, our family, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to give you one tool that's going to help you get out of the hustle mode, to help you prioritise your health and well-being, that gives you a moment to decompress the stress response. Because our monkey minds are literally going blah, 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 blah all day long, especially if you're in my mind. Da, 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 da. And when we go into the past, when we start reflecting, we start beating ourselves up. So if our brains are just literally like this, when